path of meditation. The Supreme Lord Krishna said, "One who performs the prescribed duty without seeking its fruit for personal enjoyment is a renunciant or sannyasi and a karma yogi." One does not become sannyasi merely by not lighting the fire, or one does not become a yogi merely by abstaining from work. O Arjuna, what they call renunciation, sannyasa, is also known as karma yoga. No one becomes a karma yogi who has not renounced the selfish motive behind an action. For the wise who seek to attain yoga of meditation or equanimity of mind, karma yoga is said to be the means. For the one who has attained yoga, equanimity becomes the means of self-realization. A person is said to have attained yogic perfection when he or she has no desire for the sensual pleasures or attachment to the fruits of work and has renounced all personal selfish motives. One must elevate and not degrade oneself by one's own mind. The mind alone is one's friend as well as one's enemy. The mind is the friend of those who have control over it, and the mind acts like an enemy for those who do not control it. One who has control over the lower self, the mind and the senses, is tranquil in heat and cold, in pleasure and pain, and in honor and dishonor, and remains ever steadfast with the Supreme Self. A person is called yogi who has both self-knowledge and self-realization, who is tranquil, who has control over the mind and senses, and to whom a coal, a stone, and gold are the same. A person is considered superior who is impartial toward companions, friends, enemies, neutrals, arbiters, haters, relatives, saints, and sinners. A yogi seated in the solitude and alone should constantly try to contemplate the Supreme Being after bringing the mind and senses under control and becoming free from desires and proprietorship. One should sit on his or her own firm seat that is neither too high nor too low, covered with sacred kusha grass, a deerskin, and a cloth, one over the other, in a clean spot. Sitting there in a comfortable position and concentrating the mind on God, controlling the thoughts and the activities of the senses, one should practice meditation for self-purification. One should sit by holding the waist, spine, chest, neck, and the head erect, motionless and steady, fixing the eyes and the mind steadily on the tip of the nose without looking around. Make your mind serene and fearless. Practice celibacy. Have the mind under your control. Think of me and have me as the supreme goal. Thus, by always practicing to keep the mind fixed on me, the yogi whose mind is subdued attains the peace of Brahma Nirvana and comes to me. This yoga is not possible, O Arjuna, for one who eats too much or who does not eat at all, who sleeps too much or who keeps awake. But for the ones who is moderate in eating, recreation, working, sleeping and walking, the yoga of meditation destroys all sorrows. A person is said to have achieved yoga, union with the eternal being, namely Brahma, when the perfectly disciplined mind becomes free from all desires and completely united with the Brahma in Samadhi. A lamp in a spot sheltered from the wind does not flicker. This simile is used for the subdued mind of a yogi practicing meditation on the eternal being, namely Brahma. When the mind disciplined by the presence of meditation becomes steady, one becomes content with the eternal being, namely Brahma, by beholding him with purified intellect. One feels infinite bliss that is perceivable only through the intellect and is beyond the reach of the senses. After realizing the eternal being, Brahma, one is never separated from the absolute reality. After self-realization, one does not regard any other gain superior to self-realization. Established in self-realization, one is not moved even by the greatest calamity. The state of severance from union with the sorrow is called yoga. This yoga should be practiced with firm determination and without any mental reservation. One gradually attains tranquility of mind by totally adorning all selfish desires, completely restraining the senses by the intellect, and keeping the mind fully absorbed in the eternal being, namely Brahma, by means of well-trained and purified intellect and thinking of nothing else. Wherever this restless and unsteady mind wanders during meditation, one should gently bring it back to the reflection of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Gods. Supreme bliss comes to a self-realized yogi whose mind is tranquil, whose desires are under control, and who is free from sin. Such a sinless yogi who constantly engages his or her mind and intellect in the eternal being Brahma easily enjoys the infinite bliss of the contact with Brahma. Because of perceiving the omnipresent eternal being Brahma abiding in all beings and all beings abiding in the eternal being, a yogi who is in union with the eternal being sees every being with an equal eye. Those who perceive me in everything and behold everything in me are not separated from me, and I am not separated from them. The non-dualists who adore me as abiding in all beings abide in me irrespective of their mode of living. The best yogi is one who regards every being like oneself and who can feel the pain and pleasures of others as one's own, O Arjuna. Arjuna said, O Krishna, you have said that the yoga of meditation is characterized by equanimity of mind, but due to the restlessness of mind, I do not perceive it as steady, because the mind indeed is very unsteady, turbulent, powerful, and obstinate. O Krishna, I think restraining the mind is as difficult as restraining the wind. Krishna said, Undoubtedly, O Arjuna, the mind is restless and difficult to restrain, but it is subdued by constant, vigorous spiritual practice with perseverance and by detachment. In my opinion, yoga is difficult for the one whose mind is not subdued. However, yoga is attainable by the person of subdued mind who strives through proper means. Arjuna said, What is the destination of the faithful who deviate from the path of meditation and fail to attain yogic perfection due to an unsubdued mind, O Krishna? Do they not perish like dispersing cloud, O Krishna, having lost both yoga and bhoga, the heavenly and worldly pleasures, supportless and bewildered on the path of self-realization? O Krishna, only you are able to completely dispel this doubt of mine, because there is none other than you who can dispel such a doubt. The Supreme Lord Krishna said, "There is no destruction, O Arjuna, for a yogi either here or hereafter. A transcendentalist is never put to grief, my dear friend. The unsuccessful yogi is reborn in the house of the pious and the prosperous after attaining heaven and living there for many years. Or such a yogi is born in a family of enlightened yogis. A birth like this is very difficult indeed to obtain in this world. There he or she regains the knowledge acquired in the previous life and strives again to achieve perfection, O Arjuna. The unsuccessful yogi is intrinsically carried toward the eternal being, namely Brahma, by virtue of the impressions or samskara of yogic practices of previous lives. Even the inquirer of yoga, union with God, surpasses those who perform the Vedic rituals. The yogi who diligently strives becomes completely free from all sins or imperfections after becoming gradually perfect through many incarnations and reaches the supreme abode. The yogi is superior to the ascetics. The yogi is superior to the Vedic scholars. The yogi is superior to the ritualists. Therefore, O Arjuna, be a yogi. I consider the yogi devotee who lovingly contemplates me with the supreme faith and whose mind is ever absorbed in me to be the best of all the yogis. Thus ends the 6th chapter named Path of Meditation of the Upanishads of Bhagavad Gita, the scripture of yoga, dealing with the science of the Absolute in the form of the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna.